theatricality and deception. Powerful agents to the uninitiated, but we are initiated.
I'm super excited!
When I realized that this is not some accident, it's the food that they think is the same is not the same anymore. You know, everybody's for free choice. Whether we're liberal or whether we're conservative, we've all got that streak in us. But the fact is, you cannot have free choice unless you have an informed choice. And you can't have an informed choice if they're lying about what's on the label. What about Pam cooking spray? Everybody knows what Pam is. It's some kind of little healthy oil with compressed air that you spray it and it gets on your pan. It's not compressed air. And they don't tell you, but it's butane and propane. People don't understand that they are spraying lighter fluid on their children's hot cakes. And it's fabulously successful. But we can sue their pants off.
John Kelly and Detroit's #1 news team.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Bill Bonds, and here's a look at what's happening tonight. And what's happening is that the swine flu vaccination program ground to a halt from coast to coast today. There have been now 12 reported deaths so far, with victims dying just a few hours after receiving those inoculative shots. All of the victims were elderly persons, and all, we are told, died of apparent heart attacks. In the state of Michigan, the state health director, Maurice Reisen, ordered a stop to all swine flu shots after 3 Michigan men died hours after receiving their vaccinations. Health officials estimate that 10,000 Michigan people have already received their shots, and President Gerald Ford told ABC Television News tonight that he intends to get his vaccination.
We're in the process of making a thorough investigation, but there is no precise information that those deaths came about as a result of the immunization.
While you were making this investigation, what should people do?
From all the evidence I've seen so far, people should continue. I'm going to do it as quickly as I possibly can myself, and our family will, because we're convinced that it's in the best interest of all of our citizens.
Well, here's where we stand as of tonight. The Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, is saying that there is no evidence yet, that they have at least been able to discover, that the 12 deaths were connected to that swine flu vaccine.
cosmetics in 1990, but it's still allowed in certain foods. Consumer Reports is calling on the FDA to ban it in foods. More than 2,900 food products contain red dye number 3. Just Born, the maker of Peeps, says its candies are made in compliance with FDA regulations.
Without this treatment, my son will die.
I remember sitting on her lap, looking up at her, wondering why she was crying. I was obviously just a kid.
I think this country has the finest bureaucratic regulations in the world, and the other countries are way behind.
What people go through with cancer, and since 1967 you've been saying, I can take care of that, and people are going, forget it, don't pay any attention. Are we that backward, doctor?
Yes.
Well, what do you mean? Yes. Are we that backward?
Yeah.
Dr. Brzezinski saved my life.
Do you believe you would be alive without Dr. Brzezinski?
I know I would not.
For some reason, they don't want to have cure of cancer.
25 years old at the end of the month, and there's been a cure for cancer that long.
Dr. Brzezinski saved my life, and for that, he is facing 300 years in a federal penitentiary.
Perhaps Dr. Brzezinski has found the medical breakthrough of the century. Certainly a wealth of empirical data hints at that possibility. But how will we ever know if the FDA succeeds in quashing it?
The FDA has raided Dr. Brzezinski's clinic enough times now that they should have been able to prove any legitimate charges they may have had against him. The relentless stress the FDA has put Dr. Brzezinski's patients through is unforgivable.
The FDA has convened 4 grand juries, none of which returned an indictment. Finally, 5 days after this body pressed David Kessler for answers on retaliatory actions against Dr. Brzezinski, guess what? He was indicted.
Will FDA's initiatives that you announced today expedite the current review of anti-neoplastoms treatments? I don't want to get into any particular agent.
Isn't part of your problem that the treatment of cancer is a very profitable industry for a lot of companies, and that your treatment right now will eat into those companies' profits?
Bingo.
Yes.
I'd like the following questions to be asked the FDA. How much money have they spent in the last 10 years to try to put Dr. Brzezinski out of business? How many documents can they subpoena, and how many more grand juries does they have to go to? And why can't patients who have advanced cancer seek the medical treatment of their choice?
The issue of whether anti-neoplastones work may not even come up during the trial. The judge says that's not relevant.
You voted to acquit?
To acquit, absolutely.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
I voted for acquittal. I voted my mind and my heart.
I do not believe that Dr. Brzezinski is a criminal.
And I had voted to acquit.
Dr. Stanislaw Brzezinski is presently the first and only scientist in United States history to enter the federal drug approval process for a proprietary cancer therapy without any financial support from the American government, the pharmaceutical industry, or the cancer establishment.
I'm absolutely heartbroken. Someone's jumped over in the night and put salt all over the land. That means everything I've planted won't grow. And I can't replant on it because it won't grow. So all the hours and hours and hours of work that we've put in is now dead. And they've done it everywhere. How could you do that? Literally. I hope it makes you happy. I really do. Top person. But you know what? You won't stop me, because I'll just pick it all up and I'll carry on. Okay, I can't plant in this section, but I'll carry on. You won't stop me whatsoever.
What is the government hiding from you? It turns out a lot. A blocked report from the government has just seen the light of day, and this is relating to fluoride. Biden health officials suppressed a government study that showed that there is no safe level of fluoride in water supply, and that it can lower IQ in children and harm pregnant women. The only reason we know about this is thanks to a lawsuit that forced the Biden administration to turn over the documents. But first, just look at the places that do have fluoride in the water. This map is courtesy of the British Fluoridation Society. Fluoride in the water is a funny thing, right? The government says we need it to protect our teeth, and our teeth need protection because the modern diet is so degrading on teeth enamel and full of sugar and processed foods that grind down our teeth. It's a vicious cycle, right? So the government, in response to this, has decided to fix our food chain. Just kidding. They're not. They're not going to do anything
Like,
of the
instead
sort.
of all the processed food, we'll get rid of that. No, instead, we're going to mask it with chemicals in the water.
Yes, that's exactly right.
That's how we roll.
And, you know, there was never any real research on the effects of this. And now that there is some, the government is trying to hide that research about the possible negative effect of fluoride. A group called the Fluoride Action Network has sued the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. The EPA is being defended by the Justice Department. So you and your tax dollars are defending this. You're defending their right to maybe hurt you and your kids. That's how it works.
By putting fluoride in the water.
Because we pay our taxes and the Justice Department is taxpayer funded. So we are then all in on protecting the EPA. We have to be. But in this suit, they sought for the release of a report called the National Toxicology Program. And here is the report in question. Why do we have it? Because a judge ruled that we should. The Justice Department had asked for this report not to be released, and the judge ruled against them. Prior to that, the report was blocked from publication by Assistant Health Secretary Rachel Levine. You may recall that Rachel Levine is a transgender person that says that doctors should be trans advocates for medical transition. So this person's A-okay with foreign chemicals in the body. We already know this. Here is the email in question where someone is asking, like, hey, we got a heads up from the NIH about this report coming out soon and fluoride and the, you know, effects on IQ. Assume you're aware. Do we need to chat? That is, you know, I think that's masking like, yikes, this is going to suck. We need to talk about it. To which this person responds, thanks so much. Assistant Health Secretary Levine has put it on hold until further notice. Like, we should be freaking out, but for now, it's been buried.
So Levine has other things to do. She's out getting Woman of the Year awards. Too busy to release this report on damaging fluoride effects on children.
Right. I mean, you know, we've talked many times about the pharmaceuticals that are put in transgender children in order to treat gender dysphoria. It does not solve gender dysphoria. It only hurts their bodies. Rachel Levine is totally fine with that. So, yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, so back in like 2008, 2009, when I first started my journey, I started watching Alex Jones. And Alex Jones complained about fluoride in the water and was actually fighting his local government in Austin, Texas, to stop from putting fluoride in the water. He was like, that was one of his big things back that long ago.
Yeah.
This happy to chat bit in the email tells me that they do not want any more of a paper trail on this, that this email in and of itself is damaging
Like,
enough.
let's chat on the phone.
And they even have to do it on like burner phones because we remember the call we heard from I can't remember the lady's name, but the Ukraine thing where they're like, oh yeah, F them, you know, like that phone conversation that got leaked.
Oh, yeah.
So they probably have to use
Newland.
burner phones because, Victoria Newland.
All right. So here is what the report found. I'm only going to give you the summary because they looked at around, I believe it was 55 different studies. And they sort of did a compendium of them. And they found that here is the results. Let's just read it. In adults, only 2 high-quality cross-sectional studies examining cognitive effects were available. The literature in children was more extensive and was separated into 2 studies assessing IQ and studies assessing other cognitive or neurodevelopmental outcomes. 8 of 9 high-quality studies examining other cognitive or neurodevelopmental outcomes reported association with fluoride exposure. 72 studies assessed the association between fluoride exposure and IQ in children. 19 of those studies were considered to be high quality. Of these, 18 reported an association between higher fluoride exposure and lower IQ in children. The 18 studies, which include 3 prospective cohort studies and 15 cross-sectional studies, were conducted in 5 different countries. 46 of the 53 low-quality studies in children also found evidence of an association between higher fluoride exposure and lower IQ in children. These studies have been going on since at least 2000. No, I'm sorry, not the studies. The case this litigation has been going on since at least 2017. And what this group wants, the group that's litigating, is for the EPA to regulate the fluoridation of drinking water supply under Section 6A, because they maintain the ingestion of fluoride poses an unreasonable risk of neurotoxic harm to humans. And the EPA continues to deny the plaintiff's petition. The plaintiffs filed this suit seeking judicial review of the EPA's determination, meaning they want, because the EPA is just refusing. They're saying we're not going to look at it and we're not going to regulate it. So they want the court to make them, basically. So then the court becomes the scientist, because the court has to see this and say, yeah, absolutely, there is a risk here. And so the court has to determine what the EPA is refusing to do.
You know, there's one thing that the government, United States government, is responsible for. That is the protection and security of its people, right? And how many times are we seeing evidence that they're doing the exact opposite? The Environmental Protection Agency is supposed to protect us from environmental toxins. They literally have studies, 46 out of 53 studies that they've now shown that it raises incredible problems for young children and adults.
Yeah.
And they're putting this into the water. It's not like they found it as a chemical that's seeping out of rocks where fluoride comes from. They're adding it to the water, and they're suppressing it, not protecting people. That's astonishing to me.
Right. You know, and again, it's largely a result as the high sugar content in the American diet. So they're protecting, they're insulating and enabling a bad diet in order to continue to, you know, profit from that. And refusing to, you know, what this group is saying is, we want you to look into this and regulate it. And they're saying, no, you can't make me. And so now so I think this is an example of the court system working for what it's meant to do, which is saying, yeah, we have the right, we the people, it's in the public interest for us to see this and for you to do your job. And this group has the right to come to a court to make you. The release of this report earned the attention of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Children's Health Defense Chairman and Chief Litigation Counsel, who has spoken a few times on this show about the COVID vaccine. But about this, he says, these findings fly in the face of the empty, unscientific claims U.S. health officials have propagated for years, namely that water fluoridation is safe and beneficial. He says it's past time to eliminate this neurotoxin from